I'm William Ferguson, and we are an owner of a business called Grindstone Bay Pastoral on Triabunna's east coast. And I'm responsible for the management of the production side of the business, I would say. I'm outside, Melissa's inside.
My name's Melissa Ferguson. I work with William. I do the business administration and workplace health and safety and admin. William's family came or bought this property in the mid-1950s, and when his father and his uncles came here, there was no paddocks. There was only one paddock, wasn't it?
One paddock, all deadwood fences, no infrastructure. So in that time they've cleared it and developed it as, you know, nearly every bit of infrastructure here has been built by my family in the last 50 years, I suppose. 60 years.
Yeah.
And then in the late, in 1988, my father and uncles split their family business, and we stayed here, and my Uncle James moved to the farm next door at Rostrevor, and Henry stayed down at Buckland. And so it was run from all through the 90s and up until 2005. It was a family business of my parents and my brother and myself. And then in 2005, Mum and Dad retired from farming, and my brother moved to Colebrook, and Miss and I stayed here, and we've run it since Grindstone since then.
William's parents still live on the farm, and they, so it's great to have them living here, but it's just the business is just ours now. Yeah.
The Grindstone Bay is located on Tasmania's east coast at Triabunna. So Grindstone, the property here is roughly 3,800 hectares, which we own, and then we lease another approximately 4,000 hectares, some of it next door, and some of it, Chain Lagoons is 120 k's to the north of, between Bishno and St Mary's, on 100 k's north of here.
So Grindstone's an unusual farm in that it's got about 8 kilometres of coastline, and it is historically a very dry and variable climate. So the average rainfall is probably about 500 mils, but average is not average. No pattern,
there's no normal.
No normal. Last year we had
900 mils of rain.
Yeah, and in the 12 months before that we had about 300. So the rainfall can be anything, and it can come at any time of the year. Most of our rain comes from an east coast low, or we don't get much westerly weather. We only get westerly rain if it's a really good season. So when it's dry, it mainly comes in a big downfall, which, as we've found climate change over the last few years, it's becoming the rainfalls are even bigger. In 11 hours in January 2016, we had, how much was it?
280 mils of rain.
280 mils of rain in 11 hours, which is the same as what we'd had for the 8 months before that. So it's crazy. Like we had a flood. There was fences down. Yeah, it took us 12 months to repair the road. So it's just about being adaptable and making best of what you get.
It's basically a grazing farm, and we run based on merino sheep and Hereford cattle for beef, and we join 9,500 merino ewes about 60 to 65% are joined to merino rams, the rest are joined to border Leicesters. So it gives us a total of around that 20,000 sheep. Of the weather portion of the lambs, the best of them are retained and taken to a lease farm at Chain Lagoons, which for wool cutters, and the rest are just fattened up and sold as coals when they're 1 year old. Their ewes average 16.5, 17 microns, and the young sheep are down around the high 15s, low 16s. 20 years ago, we started using objective measurement in our selection process, and back then we were on a 8% micron premium, which was putting about 70% of our emphasis on reducing micron and 30% on increasing fleece weight, which has driven our micron down over that period of time. And then 2 or 3 years ago, we were starting to wonder whether it was the right decision to make with the price of fine wool for such a long period of time. So we changed our selection process, and now all our emphasis is on maintaining micron and putting all our emphasis on increasing fleece weight and increasing body weight in the sheep, so that we can try and get a little bit more wool cut and have a bit more of a robust sheep than what we had in the past. To help us with our selection process, all the young ewes have got electronic ear tag, and we use that so they'll all get fleece weight, micron and body weight, and the highest 5 or 6% performing sheep plus the visually or subjectively appraised ones end up going to our ram breeding flock. The next 50% end up being joined to merino rams, and the bottom performers end up being joined to the terminal side. Managing them as individuals rather than as a mob. And I think
it's been quite surprising how quickly you can make changes to the flock.
To the flock, and even when we changed our breeding index and our direction, as soon as you change that, you ended up with a different type of sheep was the higher performing sheep. Like it was almost, it was quite interesting, and how when like those, the top 5 or 6%, when you pick them after your class sheep, they were sitting in a mob and you look at them, and then the next year we changed their index and the top 5, but they were a different type of sheep than what they were, but they were a different type of sheep when you change them.
And changes happen really quickly, like the old traditional stud classing of just visually assessing them. You used to move at one pace, but when you've got the information and the visual, you move like 10 times faster.
Yeah, you do.
It's amazing.
And so the bottom performing ewes are joined to border Leicesters, and the weather portion are fattened up and sold generally to Cressy as they're bagging lambs, and the ewes are retained till they're about 14 months old and they're sold as first cross mothers. The cattle enterprise, again, it's just a standard group of about 350 breeding cows. We keep the calves once they're weaned and grow them on cereal crops during the winter time and get them to 350, 360 kilos, and then they enter our on-farm feedlot and feed them a grain mix for another 60 days and put another 100 kilos on, and then they're sold under contract to Woolworths. But to supplement our own cattle, we also buy 500 or 600 yearling cattle each year and to put into the feedlot, because we try and do 2 decks of cattle every fortnight for in retain about 90 heifers a year for replacement. But the bull, when it comes to the cattle, I think it's just a matter of trying to find someone that produces breed plan figures with the bulls and let them do all the work and just buy the bull and just let it go, and hopefully
we probably could do more with our cattle. We just have been trying to fix up our sheep to make them better and more fertile and more productive, because that was where we saw the biggest need.
We thought we could get the biggest bang for our buck and our time spent. This time of year with tractor work, sowing crops or sowing pasture and fodder crops, we employ a couple of casuals, and at Chain Lagoons there's a permanent person up there as well, so there's 5 full-time people and a couple of casuals.
We have 3 sons. The oldest one's going to turn 23 this year, and the youngest one's in year 12. So they are working out whether they want to be involved in agriculture. So it's been really good to give them all an opportunity to work here over the years. Will did 3 years at home, Sam's had 2 years, and George is going to have a year next year at home, just to see what they want to do, and then we'll make plans from there as to who wants to go where. And just constant discussions about where we go and what plans. And we want the farm to be able to adapt the different enterprises. If they want to do something different, that's fine too. If one of them wants to have wine grapes or an orchard or something, that, you know, it'd be good for them to be able to do what they're passionate about. And that's we certainly do what we're passionate about, which is more livestock and more broad acre farming sort of thing. Not too intensive. But if they wanted to be more irrigation and more or horticulture or something, or viticulture, then, you know, it'd be good that for them to have that opportunity. It is a relatively isolated area as far as farming goes. There's not a lot of farms around here.
There's not a lot of farms, and I think there's no contractors around here, so you end up having to do, basically you end up doing a lot of the work yourself. You seem to be at the end of the line for contractors. So we do all our work ourselves.
We have a semi-trailer, so we cart in all our grain and all our feed and take away all our livestock ourselves. So the truck does about 50,000 kilometres a year. So it's busy, and we justify that we have that sort of infrastructure because it's just too expensive to get people to come and do it, to cart stuff that much.
One of the major differences that's occurred over the last 10 years is that we've gone from being breeders and sellers of store stock to breeders and finishing or producers of finished stock, which I think the benefit is that you get full value for the stock you produce. And whether you can finish them on grass or you need to grain supplement them, it makes no difference, because you can take your stock through as far as you can, or you're getting the maximum value out of them that you can.
But it also does give us the opportunity to get out early. If the season deteriorates, you can get out at an earlier stage if you have to. If it's a good season somewhere else and the market's good and it's going to cost us too much to finish them, you can move things on and start destocking back to your core breeding units. Yeah, that's how we've tried to work it. Since we took over the farm in 2005 in our own right, we had 3 years straight up that didn't rain practically, like 3 severe drought years. So that was our first challenge. Luckily we'd had some reserves of cash, and we had some wool that was, so we managed to scrape through that, but it was a pretty rude awakening as to how long a drought can last. Historically, you might miss 1 or 2 growing seasons, but you wouldn't miss 6. And that's opened our eyes up to how much more, probably a bit more careful you have to be than you used to have to be for a dry patch. This was a proper prolonged drought. Like, water wasn't an issue. We've got 2 big dams that for stock water, so it didn't become an issue. But if it had gone on for another 6 months, it could have been. So we just have to looking forward, we have to be pretty careful about what the seasonal changes can be and how dry it can get, and for how long. So,
well, I think that
we have a pretty clear understanding of what mobs go first and actions that can be taken when it gets dry.
And it's a matter of getting stock to a saleable state, or whether you can get a good value for them and then moving them on, and then if it still stays dry, you just target the next class of stock and get them to a saleable state, move them on, and just keep making those moves until you're in a situation where you can handle
it. We decided to lease farms because irrigation wasn't a big option for us. We decided about 15 years ago that leasing and getting the scale of the farm bigger was the way to go. Whether that's always been successful or not, we'll see. But it's been good. It's given us climate diversity in that one of the farms has a higher rainfall and it rains at different times. So that's given us a bit of flexibility. It's certainly given us more scale. It gives you different headaches. You're dealing with people. It's not your farm. You've got to bear in mind the owner's wishes and what they and we've got 3 leases, and each of the 3 owners has different involvement, different
objectives.
Yeah.
What's important to them.
Yeah.
So, but you have to work with that. But it does give you the ability to have scale, a bit of extra scale, and
a bit more flexibility.
And you're more flexibility.
And that's where, like, having a mob of wethers has been good, because you can sell them if you sell things down if you need to make a bit more space for climate. We've found it really good working together, like not all the time, but no. So we like working together. We like it works, and we've got quite clear roles who does what. I could have gone and got a job off the farm if I'd wanted to, but I think we just decided that this is our family business. If we both put our energies into it, it will, for us, it worked better for me being here. And I nearly work full time in the office, and I think that it adds a different layer to the business. But William wouldn't have time to do he certainly doesn't have time to do what I do, and
I don't enjoy it.
And he doesn't enjoy it, and that's half of what we do. We try to do things to make our business fit what we like doing, and he likes growing livestock and producing livestock, and I like office work. So I mean, no, that sounds wrong, but I like doing business administration. So it's we're both doing what we want to do. So, and that's what we want the kids to be able to do, is to do what they want to do too. So rather than the business being dictating what everyone does, make it do what we want to do. There's plenty of scale. There's a lot of different opportunities. It might be tourism, it might be who knows, but we want the kids to have those opportunities and to have the freedom, give them a bit of chance. They don't have to do things exactly how we do it. Like, I doubt that all 3 of them will be farmers, but we want them to have the opportunity to try it and see if they like it. Yep. And it's been good, this is an aside, but it's been good giving them all a chance to be home without each other, because with 3 boys, you get a lot of order issues, bossy, So it's been really nice for Sam to have time at home without any of his brothers, and George will get that opportunity next year. It'll be the only time he can be here without one of his brothers here. So that's why we're pushing, making him come home next year, yeah.
Grindstone, like in the late 80s and 90s, we used a lot of fertiliser and a lot of pasture innovation. And then we did the RCS, Grazing for Profit School, and probably tried to focus more on our grazing management than our inputs. Like, we've got 600 megalitres of water stored now, and we can quite cheaply store another 600. Yep. But I imagine that we'll develop probably about 100 hectares of irrigation, which just gives us 2 years water supply.
So our big dam, which is 450,
yeah,
that had filled every single year since they built it in the 1979. Yeah, 79.
Up until 2005, it had flowed over every year. And then from 2006, 7 and 8, no water ran in.
Yeah.
And then it filled for about 3 years in a row, and then up until January last year, the 2 years before, no water had run in. If you look at what we think might make our business resilient, is that we've chosen fairly simple enterprises. That suit our environment. They enterprises that have got enough scale to make a difference, yet we can what's what I'm looking for? So yeah, they're not just little piddly ones. They're big enough to make a difference, but there is diversity. So we're involved in the price, the three things, the commodities that we're involved in: the price of wool, the price of sheep meat, and the price of beef have impacts on our business. And the other big one really is climate. But they're only the four things that have a big impact on us. I think it's very easy to spend if you spend too much time at home doing your own thing, you get very set in your ways and don't look far outside the box. So it's important to go and every now and again to go and see what other people are doing and learn from what they're doing. We develop our own plans of what we're trying to achieve, work out how we're going to do it, and then it's a matter of not putting our heads down and our asses up and trying to achieve it, not being distracted by what's going on too much. So
yeah, we're pretty good at having a focus and knowing where we want to go and not getting too sidelined by what's glossy and happening around. Just stick to what we know. It's important to take on new technologies and do your job better every time you do something, but you know, you can get very sidetracked and forget about what actually pays the bills. Try to make it really workplace safety happen on the ground. So we refitted out our workshop, tidied everything up, tried to make a more tidy and safe and well-maintained culture and people thinking about the safety aspect of every job that they do. Farmers just can't get away anymore with just she'll be right at all. So we're trying. I'm not saying we're all there, but we're trying.
And having a greater focus on stitch-in-time maintenance rather than waiting for something completely busted before it gets repaired.
Yeah. So we have Monday morning maintenance checks that they'll go through all the vehicles, tractors, motorbikes, quads, whatever. So everything's checked for service requirements once a week, and we try and document all that. So it just means that if someone actually goes and does the check, they checks oil, tyres. It takes half an hour once a week on Monday morning, first job, everything. And if something needs doing, it can be scheduled in in the week, or if something needs to be not used, it can be tagged out, locked out.
I think it has had a change of attitude towards maintenance, though.
Yeah.
We try and keep our equipment and infrastructure in better maintained working order.
Yeah. So it's trying to be, if you go to do a job, you've got the tools there, they work, they're safe, and they're at hand and they're ready to go. You can it makes your work more enjoyable. If you've got the right gear for the right job and it works. Yeah, and it's safe. Well, safety is often the byproduct of having things well maintained and carefully and being careful. And it's a training thing too. We employ experienced and knowledgeable staff, so we've got a lot of confidence in their abilities, right? But we want them to know that we care and we don't mind if they have to stop because getting the job quickly is not as important as getting it done safely.
Is it you choose enterprises that light your fire because you'll do a far better job of managing them. You choose enterprises that most suit the farm or location you are at, and you're adaptable. You have a plan, you stick to it, but if it needs changing, you take a lot of consideration. Then if you need to change it, you just change it, and then you head off just stick to that direction. Don't get sidetracked.